Okay. Welcome to a brand new episode of
What's
What's
Brewing
Brewing
Sis?
Sis?
My name is Shelly.
I'm Bianca,
And I'm Deanna. And here we come together to serve the brew.
as we always do.
Yeah,
We
so
are
how's
back.
everybody doing today?
It is Saturday. We are recording on a good Saturday. Everything's going great.
Sunday, girl.
It's Sunday.
You are missing days of the week.
Yeah.
This weekend has went so fast.
I just got back from vacation. I'm still in vacation mode.
Yes. You are
And
still in Anaheim.
yes, a beautiful time in California. My very first time being there. And it was amazing. I am exhausted and I got right back to the cafe on Friday. So, yeah, I'm holding on by a cup of coffee.
That's right. So I didn't do anything amazing last week. I just worked in school and, all the things. So
Same
I
here.
can't wait to get some sun. I'll be doing that next. Well, I won't get sun, but I'll get a little vacation next weekend. So the forecast in this area is not the greatest.
Oh, sorry about that.
It's okay. I'm still gonna enjoy life,
Absolutely. As we always do. So last episode we talked about day in the life at the cafe. That was so much fun.
Yeah. I liked the video at the end. It kind of gave the viewers a sneak peek in what actually it looks like on our way there, getting on the elevator, going upstairs, kind of just a day in the life, long story short. But it was a good coffee chat.
Yes, indeed. Shelly, anything stood out to you from last episode?
Last episode was absolutely amazing. I love, showing all the pictures of everybody who's been down to the cafe. All of our family and friends are so appreciative, and still the energy that our family and friends give even in week 4 lets know that they're in for the long haul. So they're going to be here with us. They want to get down there. They want to purchase coffee. They want to be supportive and get behind the counter as well. So
Yeah.
everybody has been so helpful, and it does not go like sometimes I just sit back and think about how blessed we are, how blessed I am, and it's sometimes overwhelming that people will share a post just to get their family and friends to come and help us, and that has been unbelievable. And every day, I don't let a day go by without thanking God for everything that He has shown us from this point, and everybody that's been helpful to us. So thank you, God.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it's been a quite unique experience, but I appreciate it all the same as far as like you said, the love and support that we've been getting with our friends and family, from coming to the cafe, from purchasing online, from getting behind the counter, all those things. And everybody that has helped us in the way of, being supportive behind the counter have all said that they enjoy it too. Like it's fun. They enjoy being there with us and all those great things. So yeah, we're truly, truly blessed. And let's just talk a little bit about the fact yesterday we were in 2 places at one time.
Yes, you were at the coffee chat with Pastor Pat, Shelly, myself, and her daughter Savannah was at the cafe. So it was Cafe Coco Latte everywhere. Deanna, you had your 2 nieces, Kyra and Jayla, as well as friend Mary, helping out. So it speaks to that village that we have of people who are just, putting their hat in the ring to help us out. So how was your coffee chat? How'd they go?
It was amazing. So the event itself was nice. It was a panel discussion of women, basically just talking about their experiences in womanhood and like some of the things that we deal with, and how also they talked about not always being that strong woman, strong Black woman, and having to be able to move through things as if you're unaffected. and being okay with not being okay. So I was there for as a vendor, but I was also there for the discussion. Like, so it was a great event. But folks loved our table. Like, we definitely stayed busy. Sold out of the cookies, had very minimal things leaving. And, my nieces were like, man, we're taking a lot less out than we came in with. I said, that's always the goal, baby. You want to you want to leave with nothing. Leave it all on the floor. So it was a great time.
Yeah.
But yeah, the I'm like, there needs to be more events like that. Where it's inspiring, encouraging, uplifting, and real. Like, let's
Yeah.
not feel like we have to be strong all the time. Let's not perpetuate the strong Black woman syndrome. Like, be okay with not being okay sometimes. So yeah, all of it
That
is good.
that's a great message. I've laid that cape down years ago. The whole, you got to be strong. To the point where I started to hate the word strong, and I'm circling back to it that I'm okay with it. But for years I hated the connotation of being the strong Black woman. It's like I have feelings too, but
Yeah.
um, over on our end at the cafe, it was a really great day. My niece and nephew showed up, Clinton and Shafan. They took pictures, posted us on Facebook. Two posts actually, like, come check out the cafe. It's upscale, it's nice. They bought coffee, hung out with us for a little bit. And, we had our regulars show up, our weekly regulars. Oh man, I can't think of her name right now. I want to give her a shout out. She always brings her daughter and her daughter's friends.
I believe it's
Yeah,
Jessica.
Jessica. Yeah.
Jessica, yes. She came in, we had JB and all of our regulars that show up. Loved them so much. We had the biggest tip we ever got yesterday.
Yeah.
Shelly told us about that. Savannah was at the register.
Yeah, so I was at the register at the time, and JP from one of our neighboring stores came in, and he always offers a really good word. He's a really good person, but he came in and said, always offer a suggestion, which I thought was a really good tip to help push sales and to get people excited about a new product. And he only came in for a cup of ice and left $20. So it's amazing people that walk through the door and the advice that they give. People literally just want to help. We also had a young lady walk in and she asked the famous whisper question: "Is this a Black-owned business?" And she wants to hook us up with her brother who has a foundation in Nevada that helps Black entrepreneurs, and they're creating a network of people who can come together and speak at events and tell people about the ups and downs. So that was also very inspiring, and you never know who God is going to put in your path, and people walk by and they look in the cafe, and we are giving people a reason to come in. So it was an amazing day. I do hate that I missed Pastor Pat's event. That's good to know. But I definitely want to give a shout out to Jayla, Kyra, and Mary, and definitely you, Deanna, for holding the new team down at that event. So thank you guys so much, and everybody has been so helpful. It's just like it's so overwhelming, but it's so cool too.
One of the thing I wanted to mention about the event, Mary was kind of taking a few pictures in the background, and she was pointing out things like, look, everybody on the panel has a cup of coffee, cocoa latte coffee in front of them. Like, that's a picture. Then she look at another table. That whole table got coffee too, So she was very much into it. And she was like, she said, the last time I was asking people did they want lemon in their drink was when I was working at Olive Garden as a recent college graduate. And I remember saying to myself, I'll never do this again. Like, she was waiting to emerge into the like corporate world and get a real job. But she's like, it's a whole different feeling when it's your friend that's the owner of said establishment, now she's like, it's just a different vibe, a different feeling. And I'm happy and excited to ask people, do they want lemon in their lemonade or their tea or whatever, She was like, I'm so proud of you guys, which is something that
So
we hear a
awesome.
lot. But she was like, the energy behind everything associated with Cafe Coco Latte makes her, she raised her hand like, oh, do you need more help? Like, I'll come help. And I think that's something that happens over and over again. That our slogan is heart crafted love in every sip and bite. I think people feel the love that we put into the business, and it's electrifying and it's inspiring, and it makes people want to get involved. So we greatly
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Yeah, yeah.
It does not go like I pray that she got those pictures and she can post them and use them at some point, because it literally feels like we went from not having, which is the true fact, we went from not having a cafe to being like having a cafe and having our cups on people's tables and people are drinking our stuff. It feels so unreal, and sometimes it almost feels like it's like, is it too heavy to hold? Like, is this something that I'm really ready for, God? Like, I know that I am, but it's unbelievable. Like,
Yes.
it's really unbelievable.
And for the pop-up, we only offered one signature drink, which is the Caramel Delight. But baby, people was coming up like, yeah, I saw that Caramel Delight over there. I need one of those. Or what is it called? What is it called, Cheryl? The Caramel Delight. I need the Caramel Delight. So I was like, I said I knew it would have been too much to try to, bring multiple of the signature drinks, but I was letting them know where they could come and try other things, and but I'm like, yeah, if we even if we had tried to manage two, it would have been too much. But they definitely enjoyed the Caramel Delight.
It's funny when you hear people like ordering the Caramel Delight, and literally it started from sitting at my kitchen table. And we were like, let's put this with this and do this, and then let's taste it.
Yes.
And what y'all think? What we gonna call it? We'll call it the Caramel Delight. Oh, good. That's a good drink name. Okay. And now some of me or people walking in like, can I get the Caramel Delight?
Yes, yes. Yes.
So,
So
yes,
one other thing I'll mention is there's other people too that are looking for ways to partner with us. Like you mentioned, JP is from Spirits, right? Spirits and Spice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're like eventually we're definitely going to do a collaboration. But I was out on Friday night. I went with my mom to meet with a group of her old work friends, and one of the ladies there was like, now, do you guys do any like sandwiches or anything? I said, it's coming, I'm like, she said, oh, well, I grow and make my own pickles. She's like, I would love to be able to like be your pickle supplier. You know what? I'm like, yes, we're we're here for it. So I'm like, it's a whole vibe out here. Like when people hear what we're doing, they want to know not only how they can support, but how they can be a part of it, how they can partner with us. And we're all about, highlighting small businesses, keeping it local, partnering with people we know. So I'm like, and those relationships just keep happening organically. So it just, to me, is confirmation that we're doing things and moving in the right direction continuously.
Yeah. It gives validation to what it is that we're trying to do, and to have that constant reminder, and just to have that feeling that God is watching you and God is, a part of what you're doing is a beautiful thing. Like, it is a beautiful thing, So it lets like the small petty stuff, or it lets it kind of keeps you focused on what the ultimate goal is and looking at the bigger picture. So that's why I kind of just refuse to get sidetracked or not go too far off of what the ultimate picture is. And that's success for us all. And anybody that wants to join us, come on, get on the Cafe Coco Latte train.
Yes.
So what do we have to talk about today, Deanna?
Well, today we're going to talk about autism and neurodiversity. April is Autism Awareness and Acceptance Month. And I want to talk a little bit about what autism looks like in the Black community, and how we can, raise awareness, acceptance, and support for those impacted
Yeah.
by autism.
So we could definitely have a conversation about that before we get started. Let's get started with our normal, the icebreakers.
Icebreakers, yes. So the first one is, what would you, no, is that the right? Yeah.
What would
What
you
would you
have a
have a
personal
person
assistant do if
do
you could
if,
have?
oh,
Who wants to
Okay.
say it?
okay, I'll say it. What would you have a personal assistant do if you could have someone follow you around all the time?
I will take that first. Reminders. If I could have somebody walk behind me with everything that I say, like I need to remember later to do X, Y, and Z, I would have that personal assistant do just that, so I don't forget.
Bianca?
I would have the personal assistant do my homework, and work my full-time job so I can focus my mind on other things.
Personal assistant or a clone?
I mean, hey, if I'm paying the big bucks, I get to choose what to do. Like, do my homework. I got other things to do. Ugh, I have no time. I do need another one of me. Like, it's not enough time in the day
I
to
agree.
do all the
I
things.
agree. I think I would have my personal assistant keep me organized, like, keep all my meetings and times together, and remind me of things I need to do.
Very cool.
Next question. What is something your mother or father often does that you now find yourself doing?
I'll take that first. My father is very like since I've been young. My father has always been like, let me show you something. Let me show you this video. Let me show you this funny clip. Let me show you this. He's a jokester type of dad, but I would always be like, oh God, like what does he want me to see now? Like what is he trying? What joke is he trying to show me? And he still does this to this point. But I find myself doing that with Savannah. So I'm always trying to show Savannah the latest like video or the TikTok trend or something like that. Like, you gotta see this. And she'll be like, I already saw it, which is what I tell my dad. But it's just so funny that I could say I didn't like him doing that, and now I find myself doing it to
Bianca?
That's funny. Something my mother did that I find myself doing now. When I was younger, she used to work like 2 jobs and like stay busy. And I'm like, why would somebody want to do that? Now here I am, like a full-time job, a college student, a cafe owner, doing a podcast. Like, who has this
Like,
type
why
of
not?
time in their life? Like, no.
Yes. Similarly, Bianca, like literally when we were out on Friday with my mom and her friends, she told them, she's like, my child used to always make fun of me for working a lot of hours or working multiple jobs and doing so many things. When I was a kid, before I really knew it was 24 hours in a day, I used to say, my mom works to 36 o'clock. Like she leaves when it's early before the sunrise. She come back when it's dark again. So she worked 36 hours a day. And and she like, now look at you, like yeah. And we used to tease my mom and say, like, when you die on your tombstone, we're just gonna put she worked, because that's that's all you want to do. But she's like, yeah, now in and around and back at you.
Facts. Facts.
Yes. So the next one is, what thing would you hate keeping if you were a refrigerator?
One thing when I hate keeping if I was a refrigerator.
milk. It spoils fast. I don't know. I don't know. Veggies, anything that's gonna turn soggy or is gross or creates a smell.
I would say leftover fish because
Ew,
it's
you can't
always Smells up the refrigerator.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to say smelly leftovers, whatever that is. Anything that has a pungent smell. Like, come on. Okay. What local attractions would you recommend folks visit if they made a trip to your city?
What's our place? For all the reasons. So Water Tower Place to come see us at Cafe Coco Latte on the 7th floor. It's a great building. It's a good place to take pictures. It is a lot of businesses there, and you could be supporting a small business at the same time. So Water Tower Place.
I'm gonna steal Shelly's answer. I was gonna be like, I don't know, because I don't even go to local attractions. You know, I think people assume because we're from this great city that we go to these things, like we're at Navy Pier every weekend or blah blah blah, but literally no. So I'm gonna say the Water Tower Place for the reasons mentioned below. And that's what I got.
Yeah, I'll go with Water Title Place as well. It's unanimous for obvious reasons, but in addition to us being there, like you mentioned, it's on Michigan Avenue, the Magnificent Mile, so you can do all the things, not just Water Tower Place, but start there or end there, whatever's your groove, and and enjoy the whole Magnificent Mile.
Believe it or not, well, for our viewers, so many people travel from other states just to come there. So we get a lot of people from Michigan and what we have yesterday, Ohio, Shelley? Was it Ohio?
Yeah, Ohio.
Ohio. We had people last weekend from Naperville who were spending the weekend in Chicago. So they stayed downtown at the hotel. They said they come to the Water Tower Place once every 3 years, for this reason, just to shop and be around it. So yeah,
it's a very highly populated tourist area. It's a lot of hotels, and it's like a popular place that people come to when they come to Chicago. And they feel like they got to come get their Garrett's. I heard a customer saying like, "Oh, you ain't been to Chicago if you ain't had Garrett's," So we got good friends over there at Garrett's right across the way. So
absolutely. And the guy that came in from Ohio yesterday, he had the pecan popcorn, and he partnered it with our butter pecan coffee. So maybe Cafe Coco Latte would be also in that naming of like, if you can't go to Chicago unless you stop at Cafe Coco Latte. So
come on now.
Well, I feel like that's coming. And it's a great building to be in, but it's got me a little bit used to being downtown and the big city. Like, our city is humongous and there's so many things to see, but to be in a building that people make it a point to come here to go to is extraordinary. Like, who knew?
Yes, and our last icebreaker question is, what's the most embarrassing thing you've ever accidentally texted someone?
Oh my goodness. It wasn't a picture or anything like that, but definitely instead of sending a picture, instead of sending a text message to my boo thing, I sent this to my mama, and Lord Jesus.
Lord Jesus is a fire.
Excuse me, Mom, that was not real.
Ooh, we gotta be careful if the names is too close.
Just recently added like unsending messages, so I didn't have that option at the time, so it was more like you deleted on your end, and let's act like this never happened.
Oh God, I have to get more details later. I am not. Yeah, I don't have anything for this. I don't. Yeah, no. I don't really have anything.
That's good. You pay attention.
You're careful. Well, I would say it wasn't necessarily like anything shockingly said in the text, but I've like definitely texted the wrong people. I have a cousin named Eric Robinson and a friend named Eric Richardson, and I have sent the message to the wrong Eric more than once. You think I would get it right by now, but one time I was trying to ask Eric Richardson if he could repair my bike, and I sent it to Eric Robinson, who lives in Wisconsin. So he was like, I don't know. Maybe I could, but that would be a long ride just to work on a bike. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I did not mean to ask you to come drive 2-3 hours to fix my bike. And then more recently, I sent a message to Eric Richardson asking him about the t-shirts for the cafe, but that was to be sent to Eric Robinson. So he was just like, wrong Eric. And I'm like, dang, why can't I get it together?
They gonna start charging you. They gonna be
Right.
like, look.
Richardson and Robinson look too much alike when you just quickly doing
Girl,
something.
you gonna have to change their last name. My cousin Eric Robinson.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm like, I'm sure they wish I would get it together as well. So okay. So on to today's topic. We're going to talk about autism and how it impacts the Black community, autism as a whole, neurodiversity, and things of that nature. So first, I want to start off by defining what autism is and what autism is not. Autism is a bio-neurological developmental disorder that generally appears before the age of 3. Many doctors say the preference is to not diagnose until age 3 to allow some time to study and test and make sure that the diagnosis is accurate. But often, when there's suspicion of autism before the age of 3, the recommendation is to start the early intervention therapies, which consist of speech therapy, occupational therapy, and developmental therapy. So, autism impacts the normal development of the brain in areas of social interaction, communication skills, cognitive function. Individuals with autism typically have difficulties in verbal and nonverbal communication, social interactions, leisure or play activities, as well as, array of other possible things. Um, Individuals with autism also sometimes have comorbid medical conditions that can include allergies, asthma, epilepsy, digestive disorders, persistent viral infections, feeding disorders, sensory integration dysfunction, sleeping disorders, and more. It is typically diagnosed in boys more than girls. Boys are 4 times more likely than girls to have it. One thing I learned, though, uniquely enough, is that although boys are tended to have it more, when a girl has autism, in many cases, it's more severe. So, although they're less likely to have it, if they do have it, they're more likely to be further on the spectrum. Autism autism disorder is spectrum disorder is indication that there is a wide range of autism um, diagnosis from what's considered high functioning to moderate to severe. Depends on how the different elements of autism are exhibited in an individual. So currently, there's no cure for autism. The early intervention and treatment and the diverse symptoms related to autism can be improved greatly, and in some cases, completely overcome. I believe, is it what's her name? Whose son says Holly Robinson Pete's son, right? Is no longer classified as being autistic. But that is
Halle Berry, not Halle Berry. Tony Braxton has a son too.
yeah. I'm not sure if Tony Braxton's son is classified as no longer being autistic though. I do believe Holly Robertson Pete's son said he's not autistic anymore. Um, and there's, controversy behind that. Some people feel like it's not something that you could say that you no longer have, but
Right.
um, in some instances, people do feel like they've overcome autism.
Yeah, I
So,
read somewhere that it's not something you could grow out of. It's something that is always, you know, kind of, I don't want to call it laying in the back burner, but in the background somewhere. It's just you've learned how to cope with it. One of the facts I kind of wanted to go back to about girls with autism, I was watching a video of a young lady who is autistic, and the facts are that most girls aren't diagnosed, or if they are, it's later, because girls have a higher tendency to be able to mirror, where they will just mock activity that they see from their peers in order to like fit in, or seem neurotypical.
mhm.
So I thought that was pretty fascinating that most girls who have autism are able to just, streamline into society, and not be diagnosed, or diagnosed very late.
Or they have to be at the more severe end of the spectrum in order for it to be heavily pronounced, therefore diagnosed. Yeah,
Hmm.
so maybe the high functioning girls are underdiagnosed or misdiagnosed because of their ability to mirror and adapt.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's. I know I've heard a lot of stories of people either, I don't know if you want to call it overcoming it, or just living what we would consider a normal life. But there is a professor, now a professor, who was diagnosed. He couldn't read, he couldn't talk, he couldn't write, he couldn't do a lot of what we refer to as normal, things. And he's now a professor at a college. So I think there seems to be so much more that we don't truly know about the disease. But then, are there organizations, Deanna, that is helping as far as like knowledge goes about autism?
Yes. So there are several organizations out there. There's the National Autism Association. There's the Color of Autism Foundation, which is geared toward the African American experience with autism. There's uh, there's another group, I think it's called Black and Autistic or something like that. There's also the group Autism Speaks, which Autism Speaks has fallen under a lot of controversy. So it's kind of a touchy one. And reason being is Autism Speaks, I believe, was started by someone who probably had the right intent in being an advocate for folks with autism. However, not having autism yourself, you may think you know what the autistic community wants or how they want to be treated or identified and all those things. But what your idea of what an autistic person, wants is not necessarily true for what their experience is.
Mm-hmm.
So, like the Autism Speaks group, their symbol is the puzzle piece. And now people have evolved to a point where they feel like that is discriminatory or hurtful to say that there's a missing piece from people with autism versus the more, I guess, evolved or advanced or now thing is to use the infinity symbol, which is not that, that there's something missing, but that, our diversity and neurodiversity or just as a complex individual is something continuous, not broken, not missing, not, and it's okay to be diverse or different in that capacity. So, terminology and influence changes things over time. So I think it's important to, extend grace to folks who may be coming from the right place, but as times change, people change, thoughts and ideas change, and figure out the best way to be inclusive to all. Because there's some people who don't have a problem with the puzzle piece being the symbol. But the change really came from the autistic community, meaning those who actually have autism versus those who are our outsiders. Like maybe we have family members with autism, but we're not autistic. So therefore, I can, yes, be your advocate and try to do as much as I think that I can do to support you. But like hear from the autistic community. There's adults with autism who need to be included in the conversation, who need to be represented in how things are done and how we maneuver. So I'll just take a step back at what I failed to mention at the top of the message is my 9-year-old son Bryce has autism. He is autistic.
Bryce Zeke Remoya Onyango is an amazing ball of energy. He is inquisitive, observant, and playful. He has no fear when jumping outside in the grass or off a few flight of stairs. Wow, can he stick a landing with his bare feet? A perfect set of tents. He is quite the naturalist and sometimes mischievous, all a part of his innermost satisfaction for exploration and discovery. I appreciate the way he looks at things from his unique perspective. I enjoy being in his world of wonder. I am very proud to be Bryce's mom. My love for him is a deep, resonating, all in all, captivating, enduring, and ever expanding love. My son is a life changer. I dare you look at him and not be taken away by his smiles and charm. I am thankful for the priceless gift that Bryce gives to me. He has taught me the importance of mindfulness through his eyes. He makes me laugh louder than I usually do, and he truly does it effortlessly. Moreover, he kindly invites me to be in those moments that bring him and I pure joy. By the way, Bryce is autistic.
Let's play together.
He is autistic. There's also uh, a complexity around how people with autism want to be identified. In a lot of conditions, people want to be identified person first, disorder second. With autism, there's members of the community who want to be simply identified as that autism first. So instead of and like to someone who's neurotypical, it may feel like what's the difference or what's the play on words, whether I say um, Bryce has autism or Bryce is autistic. Is he a person living with autism or is he an autistic person?
I think that with um, anything, it's gonna come down to being person specific. You know what I mean? Like
that's what we think.
Mm-hmm.
That is what we think.
I don't feel like you could group. I know, I'm not autistic, but I don't feel like every autistic person may want to be identified the same way. I think,
right.
We have to allow said person to decide how they want to be identified.
Absolutely. Now there's also the truth in that not every autistic person will necessarily be able to articulate how they want to be identified. Whether it be because they're nonverbal or because of the level of spectrum disorder that they have. So in some instances, they may not be able to communicate their preference. Therefore, for me, I would just mainly default to members of the community at large, which still doesn't necessarily represent each individual. But I would say, yes, if someone can identify how they want to be identified, then yes, we honor that. If not, then I think the second best thing I could do is try to hear from the community what the preference is.
And this
Which
is me on the outside, right? I'm on the outside. This is just a question.
Mhm.
Autism community, don't come for me.
Right.
Um, and like I said, this could be with any community, whether it's not comparing the LGBTQIA
Yeah.
community, but can he just be Bryce? He's Bryce.
So yes and no. So this kind of gets deeper into the conversation.
Because he's
When
so big. He just has
Yes,
a
he is. Bryce is
Yeah,
definitely
I
more than
don't.
autism. Yes.
Yeah,
yeah.
he's more than autism. He is. I'm sorry, Shelly. You're saying.
I was just saying that autism doesn't even come to mind when you think of Bryce. And so like he's the one person that I know that has autism, and it doesn't come to mind when you think of him because his personality is so big, and it's like it doesn't stand in front of him. He's just Bryce. So yeah, I could continue, but
Yeah, so that is true. Of course, when I look at Bryce, I don't see autism first all the time.
yeah.
But it depends on the day, it depends on the activity, it depends on what's happening in the moment. And I think one of the challenges with having autism or being a caregiver of someone who has autism is that from face value, yes, often they appear to look neurotypical. Therefore, when there is an event, an episode, or something that autism shows up, it makes people question what's going on.
Right.
They're not clear that this is a person who's autistic. They may look at it as a child who's misbehaving.
Mm-hmm.
And then when it comes to the Black community, you feel the instant judgment when you got somebody looking at you like, I wish mine would, you know. So that's where that thin line between, he's just Bryce and having to identify or accept and make others aware that he is autistic, um, to kind of mitigate some of the judgment, the ridicule, the possible, scrutiny that comes along with, oh, you just don't have control of your child, or leave them with me for 3 days, give you back a different child. Like those kind of comments that really they have no idea. But I would, if it wasn't for the fact that I wouldn't want to place Bryce in an uncomfortable situation, my response would be, okay, come pick him up on Friday. I bet you're going to be changed more than you think that you're going to change him, because to be in a 24/7 daily life and experience of what it means to have a loved one who is on the spectrum is totally different than when you see one breakdown in the store and think that you could have handled that situation better. So that's where I get, for those who say I am autistic, they want to put that out front. So if you are experiencing them and not understanding why they're withdrawn, or why they are socially awkward, or why certain situations are, overstimulating, or all those things that could be going on, if you hear it first, maybe that'll help you in your response and communication to them first. So
Yeah.
Kind of just bouncing off what you're saying, and I don't know if you have any facts on this pulled up, and maybe we could get some pulled up while I'm talking about autism in the Black community and how often or not often, African American people are diagnosed. The reason why I ask that is because I feel, without me knowing the facts, I
mhm.
feel as though African American children, people are diagnosed at a lesser amount or not until later because of the fact that um, those type of comments that you just mentioned, like, oh, give me the child for a weekend, I'll get them together, or um, people not wanting to admit the diagnosis, people not wanting to put that label, put a label on their child or their family member when we all know that, there's something different, um, something not neurotypical about said person that probably could be addressed, but we don't know what it is, and no one wants to figure it out because they don't want anyone to look at their child differently, and they're just going to act like this isn't happening.
Right. So there's so many layers to the diagnosing process. First, a lot of there's so many layers. So with regard to diagnosis as a whole, initially it was definitely more whites than Caucasians that were being diagnosed. Now it's kind of somewhat shifting. I believe the initial stats were like saying there was 2% of white children or 2.5% of white children are diagnosed with autism, as opposed to maybe a flat 2% of African American. But then more recently, it's been shifted to like 4% of African American. But the process, partly, some of the factors that may delay or result in misdiagnosis is the either being in a underserved community where you maybe don't have access to the best health care, or you're just simply not attending the regular scheduled visits, or subpar, therefore your doctor's not making you aware of the possible diagnosis, um, or being dismissive, or not recommending the testing and things like that. Then there's the layer of the not wanting to acknowledge or hear or accept that, if a doctor does say, I think your child is exhibiting symptoms of autism, and you're like, no, he not, and you don't follow through. Then there's also those who might look at a African American child who is exhibiting what do they call it? Divergent behaviors, and look at it as something other than autism. So there are so many layers to that. So for in my experience, what I knew about autism prior to Bryce's diagnosis or suspicion of said diagnosis was very limited. All I had been told about children with autism is that they are that they don't smile, they don't look people in the eye, they don't speak, or their speech is limited, things like that. But Bryce's first year was very, neurotypical. He met all his milestones. He was walking at 11 months. He was initially talking on board for his age group. So there was nothing that stood out to me within that first year that would have indicated that, he was going to be autistic. However, in the second year, he experienced some regression. And although the regression was happening, I didn't necessarily see it until the doctor brought it to my attention. Um, but once she was just asking questions at his 2-year-old checkup, like how many words does he know? What are the activities that he does, things like that. And she was like, I think we might need to get Bryce tested for autism. And it did hit me in the face, like, what? Like, he smiles, he's socially interactive, he gives hugs, he runs and jumps and plays, he's very agile, So it was my limited knowledge of autism caused me to say things as though all the things that I thought autism was not, like autistic people are not loving and exhibiting emotions and things like that. But there's so much more to it than that. And then there were things that just, I guess as a mom was instinctive that I didn't realize was necessarily divergent. Like when he would lead me to stuff and point at what he want versus, saying what it was, or just being in tune with him. If I knew certain things might be upsetting for him or troubling for him, if he would whine about something, I could just look him up and down and be like, oh, he's upset because his pants is stuck into his sock. Just pull his pants out of his sock, he'll be all right. But those were early signs that I didn't realize that were pointing towards autism. Had I not been receptive to what the doctor was saying, I could have dismissed it and like, they just always trying to label a little black kid and kept it moving. So we have to challenge ourselves to hear what, those who have more knowledge are offering and explore. It could be right or wrong, but if we are closed off to the idea that there could be something wrong, that would be the
Yeah.
first mistake.
And I think what we're doing here and even having a conversation is amazing. Because you're letting everybody know what your story is. There's another YouTuber, which is actually one of my favorite YouTubers. The name of her show is The Gentle Life, and she has I believe her daughter is 3 or 4, maybe just made 4, and she has autism, and she basically shows how when you can be gentle and you can be loving and understanding of what it is that your child has been diagnosed with, you're bringing more attention to it, and you're also showing the world as a Black woman, they're a Black family, that hearing that diagnosis, while it is a tough thing to hear, you can still you still can live your life, so if you guys haven't, definitely check their show out. It's a really good, and all the ways for me, like very calming, and it lets me learn a little bit more about autism.
What's the name of the show again?
The Gentle Life.
The Gentle Life. Yeah, I'll definitely check it out. Another show that was really helpful for me is on Netflix. It's called Atypical, and it's kind of going through the life of a teenager. He's Caucasian, but he's a high school student, and he has a younger sister. Like Bryce has a younger sister, so it shows their dynamic. How she's like the big little sister and protective of him. It shows his quirks, and there's so much that I can like relate to already. So it quickly became one of my favorite shows. And it's nice to have something like that to just let you know that, it autism definitely crosses all, social economic groups and races, but the commonalities are more than the differences when we get to like what just autism in general looks like. And then we just have to challenge our community to be more knowledgeable, aware, and accepting and kind to those who are impacted by autism.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't
I
be so.
think yeah. I definitely think that there needs to be more I don't even know what to call it. So I'm just thinking about back to what you were saying about, Bryce being diagnosed or them saying we should do more research into it. And I think a lot of in the Black community, a lot of the issues we have is stuff like what you just said. Oh, they're just trying to label another kid. I think it takes the parents to also do their own research. I just not comparing the two. I was just thinking back when you were saying that they're just trying to label another kid. When I took we transferred him to a predominantly white community, and they were trying to put him on some sort of program, or IEP, whatever they call these things these days, PCP. I don't know. What do they call it? IEP. these little programs. I don't know. It's one of the girl that has so many acronyms. I was
Acronyms,
like,
yes. You
what?
can get acronym souped, yes.
That you would get acronymed up, and I'm like, no, my son does not need an IEP. Like he's perfectly fine, and he was. But I think it's that pushback in the African American community because people who are not of our community is always trying to place some sort of diagnosis or something on children. And I think it takes the parents to be like, okay, I hear what they're saying, but let me do my research.
Right.
Let me consult with my physician. Let me do more on my part instead of just being like, no, that's not it. And case closed in the story. But what I wanted to ask you, Deanna, me not having a child with autism, uh, programs and things like that was something I never had to think about. I remember when you were moving to your area that you are now, one of the things you did was look up the school districts and what programs they had. And I was really sitting to myself like, that is something I never would have even thought about when I, decided to move. Do you think that you find that there's more, there's not enough information on programs that schools offer or what's out there for help with the autism community?
Yes. So a few things on that. How my brain works with anything, diagnosis wise. Once a diagnosis is given, I go into research mode. I want to gain as much knowledge as I can because I feel like, knowledge is empowering. If I know what I'm dealing with, know what I'm up against, I can, move differently. I can make sure that I do everything I can to support or make this the best of this situation, right? So when Bryce got the diagnosis, they did start the early intervention and put him in special education courses for early education. At that time, we were living in the city of Chicago. So I appreciate the teachers that he had. The lady was very nice. He still talks about Miss Mobley to this day. But I really quickly realized that Chicago didn't have the resources that I was looking for. So, or at least, not in the area of Chicago that I was in. So I asked. I feel like if you don't know the answer to a question, you ask. I asked the speech therapist, like, where are the programs that are specific for autism in Chicago? Because he was in special ed, but I realized quickly that his classroom was made up of various types of kids, so maybe a kid with autism, a kid with Down syndrome, someone with cerebral palsy. And I'm like, although they are all, special needs, their needs are specific and not necessarily the same. Therefore, this classroom setup for me wasn't really the best, environment for Bryce. So when I asked, what programs does Chicago offer that's specific for autism? She said, well, Mom, a lot of things got cut and funding got cut. We did used to have more specific programs, but a lot of that programming has ended. She was like, however, we need parents like you to go to the superintendent or the board and, advocate to bring some of those programs back. I said, oh, so where do I need to live that already has the programming in place? Because by the time I fight the city of Chicago, my child might be out of high school. And she's like, I love the way you think, Mom. She's like, you're a rock star. I wish we had more parents like you. She's like, we really need parents like you in the city, though, to make the city do right. She's like, but looking at your face, I see your bags are already packed. I said, I'm sorry. At the time, my older son was sophomore in high school, and he was doing great at a Chicago school. He was in a selective enrollment school, Lynn Bloom. Shout out to Lynn Bloom. He got nearly $1 million scholarship offers and all that. So I said, you know what? This is the plan. And then, like, first thing you got to do is make a plan. I said, we're going to stay in Chicago until CD graduates from Lynn Bloom. And then we going wherever we need to go that has the programming that Bryce needs, and the therapist told me that she said, well, Oswego School District has the STARS program, and it's really good, and it's designed specifically for kids with autism. I said, okay, sounds like we moving to Oswego or somewhere within Oswego School District.
Yeah.
Uh, so, and yeah, we live in Aurora, but bordering between Aurora and Oswego, we got the Oswego School District. Bam. So, uh, but CD graduated from Lynn Bloom in like what, June of 2018, and we closed on this house in August of 2018. Like when the mindset is there, the actions will follow. And when we first started, getting it together to purchase a home, I was even in between jobs, but I was just like, well, it don't hurt to get started. Like we went to the lender, and he was like, okay, this is where you at. This is what you need to do to get to where you want to be in order to purchase. So I say we started the process in February, we closed in August. And I was like, I already knew like I was going to transition to a new job, but then I knew what I wanted from the job in order to make sure that it fit the parameters to get the house. Like it's all, and then from there, yeah, I'm like, I was even looking outside of Illinois. When I was doing my research, I'm like, what is the best city to live in the world for people with autism? Like that's how deep my crazy goes. So yeah, to me, if like a person cannot choose to be autistic, but as a parent, I can choose how to support my autistic child. If that means where I live, the people that I have helping to take care of him, every aspect of what I do can be to the best of my ability to support his needs up to and including leaving the country if that if that was on the table. But yes, I've been pleased with the Oswego School District, so I think we'll stay here for now.
Yeah.
I don't know if we've said his name enough, or he's just pulling you away.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, Bryce is already here.
You want to say hi? Say good morning.
Good morning, Bryce.
Good morning. Oh, he's like, I'm not camera ready.
You probably want me to go get him some food or something. What do you want? I want.
He woke up with the swole face and sleep.
Yeah, I think the most important thing though to understand is, the common phrase that I hear people say is, if you know one person with autism, you know one person with autism. But as you can see, my autistic child is getting upset right now because he wants something from me. And every day is not a difficult day, but there are difficult days, and that's okay. And there's times that I get frustrated, or other members of my household get frustrated. I remember one particular time where CD was like getting frustrated, which he does very well with Bryce, but this particular day, autism was getting on CD's nerves, and I'm like, what I said to him, which I think was helpful, was imagine how he feels. If you're frustrated because having to, navigate his frustration, imagine how frustrating it must be for him to not be able to fully articulate what he wants, what he needs, how he feels in a way that we can understand. And I think that's always helpful for all of us to, have that little extra patience, or to, try to figure it out. Because I can't imagine not being able to express myself in a way that's clear and concise for someone else to understand what I'm feeling. Therefore, I can, have compassion with him and try to understand what he needs instead of reacting to his, outbursts or whatever it is that he's dealing with at the moment. So I'm like, I had to learn that. I'm still learning. I dare not count myself an expert on all things autism. I think I'm pretty good on all things Bryce. But that's just Bryce. I can't,
As a parent, you have to be, yeah.
yeah.
But one thing I definitely think that you have spoken highly about is the fact that you don't be fearful as you're walking your walk with whatever it is. Whatever it is, do your research, find out more about it. Don't be fearful. Put your life in a position where it will only better help yourself or your family member. But rise above any diagnosis to the best of your ability, and definitely don't judge anybody else for something that they're going through.
Yeah. I'm still learning things every day, and I try to dive in as much as I can. Another new hat that I've decided to adorn is being a part of an advisory group. This advisory board, which is partnered with so this opportunity was presented to me by Northwestern because I had participated in some earlier research with them. The doctor reached out. She's like, "Hey, Mom, I remember you from a prior study. Would you be willing to consider being a part of this advisory board? It's made up of adults with autism and um, parents or caregivers of children with autism, so that we are including, autistics and those who care for autistics on this advisory panel to help, make the way autism is perceived, received, and all of that, inclusive and complete. So I see it as an opportunity for me to learn from the adults, the autistic adults, because they're older, further along in their journey than where Bryce is. I feel like that can only be helpful to me to help him. So I'm excited and I'm looking forward to learning from them, and just yeah, I'll offer and lend my experience as a caregiver. But I'm really more fascinated with what they have to say. And
Yeah.
I have learned so much. Like, I think another probably, just something that hadn't fully even been a thought in my mind prior to having a child with autism was something I read that was it was an article about nonverbal autistics, and it's like and it was written by a nonverbal autistic person who said, like, just because I'm nonverbal doesn't mean that I don't have thoughts, or that I'm unaware of what's going on around me. Um, and I'm like, you know what? I probably had never given it any thought. But I think that's another misconception that people may have, that every nonverbal person has, the inability to articulate or, think or
Oh,
observe or,
gosh, that's amazing.
yeah.
That's
So she's like, everything else about her is more neurotypical. She
mm-hmm,
just doesn't speak. And I think
mm-hmm.
there's so much that can be said without using words, in the audible sense. Like, she's a whole journalist out here, So I think it's important too for people not to try to limit or think they know the limitations of someone because of their diagnosis. But again, it's a lot of it is just because you haven't been exposed, you haven't had that experience, and you don't understand. But if you are, truly inquisitive, then you should educate yourself, or if you're not going to educate yourself, the least you could do is to not pass judgment or, say what you would do or how you would handle certain situations, which that you basically have no knowledge base on what it really means. Therefore, who are you to speak on how you would navigate it? So one thing I do like about children, like, young children, they're just um, unfiltered, but they're also very pure. So I am not offended by a question, whether it comes from a child or an adult. But I would almost rather, as an adult, if you have a question, for you to ask the question than to either give me a dirty look, make assumptions, or make odd comments.
Yeah.
But a kid might say, "What's wrong with him? Why he act like that?" And I can answer that. It doesn't hurt my feelings. And I am always willing and ready to educate a child, to explain to them at their level the best I can what autism is. We also got, the big little sister advocate, Zoe, who speaks up for her brother. She's often the spokesperson for the two of them. And she will tell me or anybody, like, Brycey doesn't like this, or Brycey doesn't like this, or why did they do that? They know Bryce have autism. And I'm like, no, they don't know Bryce has autism, but you've informed them that he does. So we appreciate that. But sometimes we can, as adults, we could learn from kids. I would rather you ask me a pure, honest question and, in an inquisitive way than for you to look at me with scrutiny. One other experience I'll share. We had new neighbors, and the kids were outside. Bryce was with my niece, and everything was going fine. They were playing with toys out in the new neighbor's yard or whatever. At some point, the neighbors decided to take the toys away, and Bryce got upset because he wanted to continue playing with them. But up until that point, they thought he was just a neurotypical kid. Therefore, when he got upset, the grandmother didn't know, that he was autistic, and he threw something, and like a little piece of the toy broke off or whatever. And she was like, and I saw it happening, but I didn't get across the street fast enough. I was on my way, but it happened that fast. And before I got there, when it was with the kids, and she didn't know I was the mom, she said, he said, "What's wrong with him? Is he slow or something?" And then I heard my niece, try to say very politely. She was like, "Well, ma'am, he has autism," And she was like, and then at that point I walked up, and then she seemed to be kind of like, oh man, like putting her foot in her mouth type of thing. But I was like, I'm not that type of person. I'm just gonna start like going off or whatever. And I apologized, that he had broke something. And she was kind of like startled and like, oh, like, well, I didn't know. You're right. You didn't know. And it's okay that you didn't know.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if that's the best way to say it. Like, is he slow or something? But
But what you said definitely is a better way to handle it, because sometimes people don't know, and because they don't know, or I've said stupid things because I don't, you don't know. But I think the way you approached it with her was the better way to do it. Is she doesn't know, so give her a little grace. But then you do know, so you have responsibility in this too.
Yes.
So that responsibility, I think, is important.
Yes. And I'm like, we can all, learn and grow. So they're good neighbors, they understand. They also, try to make sure they include Bryce and everything. And sometimes I, decline the invitation because I know certain situations will be overstimulating for him. But it's like, say, if he doesn't attend a party, they might send him a goodie bag anyway, things like that. So I'm like, it's all good, but yes, how you respond to someone can make all the difference. Instead of, taking offense and making it a big production and getting into a fight, see it as an opportunity to educate, to, add influence. And then next time, if a person finds himself in a similar situation, maybe they'll be able to identify, or they'll be a little more understanding, but we're all in this together. It doesn't have to be a divisive thing. Yeah,
and I definitely think we can end it on this. It's kind of wrapping up everything you just said. Educate yourself, and find resources. If you're not going to do that, don't pass judgment. And also, everyone be gentle with each other. Be gentle as the parent or family member of an autistic person, understanding that people may not know, and may insert foot in mouth. But also as the person who is on the outside, who doesn't have any familiarity. Who's not familiar with autism. Be gentle with your questions and your comments and your concerns, and understand that maybe you don't understand. And that's that on that.
Be fearless. Yes. Anything you
Guys,
want to
another great episode.
Yes.
What's
Yes.
the-
You was about to say anything else in closing? Or so?
No, I was gonna say, did you want to end it with anything else, Deanna?
No, I think we did a good summary there on the end. I'll just say, you know, who is it? Actually, I think it was Jerry Springer used to say, be kind to yourself and each other. You know,
Oh my God.
Not Jerry
like,
Springer. I don't
yeah,
know
that
which
came
ended
from
up
Jerry. That's
Jerry.
probably the best thing about the Jerry Springer show was the be kind to yourself and each other comment, because all the other stuff was just foolery. But yes, one thing we can take away from Jerry Springer is be kind to yourself and each other.
And each other.
Absolutely.
And with that, as we always say,
Keep
Keep
it
it
brewing.
brewing.